What is good, Heat Nation? Welcome back to a brand new video. And yes, it is playoff time. It is that time of the year. We're getting geared up for the playoffs. Unfortunately, your Heat are in the play-in, so we're gonna have to play a game before we can even make it to the playoffs. But that is tomorrow, as I'm recording this video, against the Atlanta Hawks. Rematch of last year's Round 1 series where we demolished them in 5 games. And yeah, the Hawks are going to look for their revenge, but the Heat are going to try to move on to play the Boston Celtics in the first round if they can beat Atlanta in this play-in. Now, obviously, there's a lot of different implications. We're very familiar with this team, divisional rival. We played this team a lot throughout the course of the season. We've played them a lot over the years. Like last year, we played them in a playoff series. We're very familiar with Atlanta. They're very familiar with us. It's not really much of an adjustment to play Atlanta. I think that there's a lot of different things I'm going to be touching on, for the Atlanta Hawks series, Atlanta Hawks game. And it's all going to start with Trae Young. Trae Young is going to be the guy that the Heat are going to have to stop. And they've done a very, very good job of stopping Trae Young or slowing down Trae Young in the past. The Heat have done probably the best job out of any other team in the NBA on Trae Young in the past, because they blitz him, they trap him, they have multiple wing defenders that they can throw at him, they switch, and they kind of disrupt Trae Young's efficiency, they disrupt his flow, and that is going to be ever so needed. There's going to be a lot of X factors in this game, but I'm going to go with Caleb Martin, whose defense is going to be very critical. Even last year in the playoffs, he was extremely critical on picking up Trae Young full court. Obviously, I expect the starting lineup to be Vincent, Strus, Hero, Butler, Bam, and obviously you expect Gabe to get the Trae Young assignment, first of all, because I don't think it's going to be Jimmy, because then you're going to have 3 guards on their 2, 3, and 4, and we can't afford that. So Gabe Vincent will probably get the Trae Young assignment, and we're probably going to have Jimmy on DeJounte. He's a bit bigger, and then obviously Sadiq Bey, DeAndre Hunter, whoever they start there. I expect Hero to be shadowing them around the 3-point line and making sure that they don't get any shots off. Strus is a bigger body, so I do expect him to start on John Collins. John Collins likes to face up, but he also likes to post up. And Strus, not the tallest player, but he is a big body as far as mass is concerned. He's a lot stockier than Hero, so you can put him on Collins. Obviously, it's a mismatch, but Collins has not been that great this year, and you can stun him, you can double him, and then obviously Bam guarding Clint Capella, which I think is a really good matchup as well. Now, obviously, that's the defensive matchups for the Heat. That's probably going to happen, and you expect a lot of blitzing and trapping for Trae Young, because Trae Young is going to be extremely critical for the Hawks as their best player to get people involved, and that's the defensive side. But the offensive side of the ball is going to be even more critical. They're going to have to put Trae Young in every single pick and roll possible and get him switched onto any single player, because as we all know, he's one of the worst defenders in the NBA. There's no secret, and that's been the recipe to play the Hawks every time. We've switched Trae Young on Jimmy Butler, or Trae Young on anyone who's going to drive, and someone's going to have to help, because he's going to get beaten every single time, and a 3-point shooter is going to be open. That's preferably Jimmy, because I think, whoever Trae guards, I expect there'll be a screen to be there, and Jimmy's going to get switched, or Trae's going to get switched onto Jimmy, and it's going to be barbecue chicken alert for Jimmy Butler, because he's going to go off. So either they're going to help, or Jimmy's going to have a straight line drive every single time. That is going to be the offensive game plan, to go at Trae Young and get him in foul trouble, or make him unplayable as much as possible. He's their best player, but this is one of his biggest weaknesses, and we have to exploit it. Now, there are a lot of other weaknesses in the Atlanta Hawks defense. They do fall asleep a lot, and a lot of cuts, and a lot of moving without the ball is going to be critical, which is why I expect Duncan Robinson to also play a big part in this series, because if you guys do not remember, in game 1 of last year's series against Atlanta, he went off for 27 points. Now, he didn't do anything after that, but that one game was very, very crucial for us to win that game. So they do tend to fall asleep, and a lot of times they do get beat backdoor. They don't stay with their man, and Duncan Robinson is going to be critical. Strus is going to be critical, but I do say Robinson because I think he's a lot better at moving without the ball than Strus. Hawks offensively have been the second best offense since the All-Star break, and they have the best pull-up scoring statistics in the NBA. So the Heat are gonna have to be sharp with their pickup points. They're not gonna be able to give the Hawks space. Past half court is Trae Young's zone, so pickup points are gonna have to be key. They're gonna have to make sure that they pick up these guys where they're supposed to. They do have some guys who can knock down a lot of shots other than Trae. Bogdanovich killed us in that one game last year, I remember. DeAndre Hunter had like 36 in the final elimination game. Sadiq Bey's always been a guy who can shoot the ball. Those three players are going to be extremely key for them now. And then obviously off the bench, they're going to have Onyeka Okongwu, who's going to have to be defended extremely well by Kevin Love or Cody Zeller, depending on who gets the backup five. I do expect Love to play. I expect the backup, the rotation to remain intact with Lowry, Love, and Martin spearheading that bench unit, and having sprinkling guys like Robinson, Highsmith, Zeller, anybody else for that matter, Oladipo, anybody else. I do expect Oladipo also to get his time on Trae Young. I think it's going to be a good game. I think it's going to be a really good game, and I do think that we're going to pull it out because we've had the Hawks number for a while now, and I just don't see how they're going to be able to do much if Trae Young is getting clamped, and I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think Trae Young is going to have much space as usual when playing the Heat, and without Trae Young going off, I don't really see how the Hawks can win unless someone else randomly has a game, which is possible against the Heat. It always happens, but I think the Miami Heat will be too much for the Atlanta Hawks, and hopefully we pull this out and we move on. We don't want to play a second playing game because then we run the risk of exiting the playoffs all entirely, and we'd rather face Boston than Milwaukee for sure. Even though both are extremely good and we'd probably lose to either one of them, you would rather face Boston than Milwaukee, and you do not want to lose to the Atlanta Hawks and then have to play Toronto or Chicago, because Chicago's 3-0 against us, and Toronto's always played physical against us. So I'm more worried about those two teams. I would be more worried about those two teams than I would be with the Hawks, to be honest. So I think the Heat actually lucked out playing the Hawks in the playing game, because that's probably the easiest matchup that they could have had. We've always had the Hawks number, and it's something that psychologically is going to be a huge advantage for us, because Trae Young knows that he's going to get a lot of bodies thrown at him, and he's going to have to deal with them. So I think it's going to be a really good game. I think the Heat are going to end up pulling it out on top, and we're going to be in the first round playing the Boston Celtics, and hopefully that goes well. But yeah, I'll see y'all later as always, man. Let me know down in the comment section below what y'all think.